You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
You ever hear of test driving a phone network? Well, US Cellular is letting you test drive their nationwide 5G for free. Try out US Cellular wherever you have spotty service, your commute to work, that one spot in your house where your service dips. It's as easy as doing a little beep boop pop boop pop with your phone. That's the buttons, that's the noise they make. Anyways, test drive US Cellular's nationwide 5G coverage for free for 30 days. Just download the Try Us app. US Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com/try us.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Joined alongside Emilio live in Tennessee. Jacob is somewhere. We don't know where, but Jacob is somewhere. All right, so
cannot confirm.
I have not gotten a phone call, so I think he's still a free man. We'll see, but I'm sure he's fine. Jacob's got a lot going on too. I know Tim has got a bunch of projects he's working on. This is the best time to knock those out too. Obviously, we got 10 days until rookies report. 10 days, Emilio.
That is, dude. The fact that you just said that it blows my absolute mind. I knew it was close, but
yeah. And it's funny, too, because some people hear it and they think, man, it's just, this offseason's taking forever. When you're not focusing on, like, the important stuff, it does. I learned that a long time ago. If you're just sitting back going, hey, let me go watch highlights again. Let me argue with this person on Twitter about who's the third best quarterback in franchise history before 1950 and whatever other conversation you have. But it's when you kind of dive in and this is the time to study the tape. This is the time to go back and watch some of the film, and not from just a highlight perspective, but just go like, you know what, that game where the defense seemed to play a little bit better, why don't I key on just the box cam and see what was different, those type of things. And there's a ton of different articles that are out there that can kind of help you and aid you in that process. And today we're going to hit on an article that's actually about Robert Saleh's defense. Nice. And the reason we're doing that, guys, is because to me, that's the best guess as to what Jeff Hafley is going to do with his defense. And I know y'all who watch the show consistently have heard me say that over and over and over, but it really is, it's the closest thing we have, because Jeff Hafley, he talked about in a sit-down interview before he left Boston College how you've got to treat college totally different than the pros. And we're going to get into that here in just a second. But before we do, let's give it – when we talk about like what Robert Saleh ran and how Jeff Hafley may approach something similar. In that sit-down interview, one of the more detailed interviews I heard, Emilio, he talked about how you got to coach the college game much different than the pros, because in the college game, you have to treat the quarterback like another running back. Now, some people would say, well, there's plenty of those type of quarterbacks in the league. Very true. The difference is the 305-pound defensive lineman can run just as fast as most quarterbacks in the league, right? In college, it's much different. It's like that speed threshold, if you will, is much broader in college as it is the pros, because you're talking about world-class athletes at the NFL level. So he would refer to his NFL friends, right? He would say, my NFL friends. And who was he talking about? Who could he have possibly been talking about? Well, you got to go back to his time in the NFL, right? The last time he was in the NFL, he was with the San Francisco 49ers and Robert Saleh. Right. So now, does that mean he's going to do exactly what Robert Saleh does? Not necessarily, but I think that's going to be the foundational approach to how he runs his defense. And of course, Matt LaFleur, Robert Saleh are best friends. They were, best to the best of my knowledge, they were each other's best man in their wedding. They stay in great communication. They're very, very close. So I can only imagine the conversations that Matt LaFleur has had with Robert Saleh in the off seasons, and them talking not just defense but also offense as well. He's got to be thinking Robert Saleh's defense is humming. The Jets have a legitimate top 10 defense, most of the time a top 5 defense. Some would argue it's a top 3. Yeah. They're in that ballpark. So I imagine what's going to happen is Matt LaFleur, when he handpicked Jeff Hafley to run his defense and he plucked him out of Boston College, he probably sat down and said, hey, look, we want to get back to some of what Saleh does. Now, what you're going to find in this article we're going to read is we were trying to do much of that over the last few years. Now, I've been very vocal about how we got away from 2 high cover 4 defenses, and we played, I think, the 5th most middle field close, which is single high defense in the entire league. Now, unfortunately, all that data is gone, so I can't revert back to the website that had it. They had reset the website. Hopefully, they'll put it back up on the 33rd team, but they're kind of revamping their website as they get ready for the new season. But, Emilio, everything I just said, anything come to mind right off the bat before we get into this article? Anything you want to hit on, touch on, question, or maybe even a disagreement with anything I said there, man?
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on with all that there, just because wasn't no the athletic. I was thinking the athletic podcast, what the Piss Bros or whatever they were called. It was Robert Saleh in that.
I believe he was. Yeah, what
wasn't he? I thought it was the.
It might have been. It might have been the Piss Bros, but yeah, it was something like they were. It's the same type of way. If you go back and listen to Cleveland '95. If you watch Cleveland '95, the football
and with Saban and Belichick.
Yeah. Saban, Belichick, Jim Schwartz, who is just a dominant defensive coordinator with Cleveland right now. Several other guys, they refer to themselves as Happy Slappies. They were the Slappies. Hey, go print this off. Go to the Piss Boys is what they were called.
The Piss Boys there, because that's what triggered my what if this is that next generation and we're just kind of actually seeing it now? We're just kind of realizing it live time. Because when I went back and watched that Saban Belichick on Max, seeing them in the Browns uniform going through coaching, like it's like, whoa, they started somewhere and they grew, they got better as coaches, men, players, all that. So it's kind of cool to see that. And if that's the case, how when Belichick and Saban sat down and we're just talking football, like catching up is talking new football. What are you doing with your star? I can't believe you dropped, right. Your DN into coverage. I mean, whatever. So I think that's that new setting, and with Hafley being there, it's like, hey, who else is in our tree that you trust, that I would trust moving forward with our defense? I'm sure he could have picked his brain just a little bit about that and say, hey, man, Hafley's a guy. He's got the head coach experience. We knew that was big.
Big, it's huge, man.
So I think that's I think that's massive, and getting away from the college game when it's going the way it is. Let Hafley coach football because he loves to coach football. We're not trying to run. We're not right now running a business. We just want to bring that Lombardi back.
Yeah, and there's several different documentaries you can watch to kind of tie this together, what we're talking about. And I know this defense has nothing to do with Belichick's defense, okay? But what we're talking about is the evolution of the game and how these guys kind of come up the ranks together. If you start with A Football Life, Cleveland '95, okay, that's what it's called, Cleveland '95. You can find it on YouTube. Watch it, and then hop over and watch, I would say watch the Nick Saban of Football Life, then watch the documentary that Emilio's talking about that was done by HBO, which is Saban and Belichick together, right? You can even watch one that's called Two Bills. What's it called? Yeah, I think it's called Two Bills, and it's a 30 for 30. That's Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick. So it kind of shows Bill Belichick getting his start coming up underneath of Bill Parcells. And then as he steps into the role in 1995, he hires Nick Saban as defensive coordinator. So what many people don't know is the defense that Nick Saban became the greatest coach in college football history with at Alabama. One of the key elements was called Red 2. Now, Red 2 is very, very, very complex, but in a nutshell, it's basically zone match. It's depending on what they do, it's if and then. If they run this with the number 2 or the number 3 or the number 1, then we do that. And everyone has to know, you've heard this 1,000 times, has to do their job, right? That's what he means by it. Just focus on the 1, 2, maybe 3 things you need to do and forget everything else. Just focus on that one assignment. So if you watch that stuff, it'll kind of show you how they came up with not specifically Red 2, although it's mentioned in the documentary. They're not going to give away too many of the secrets. But basically, Nick Saban came up through the ranks under Belichick, and they've been close friends ever since. And some would argue Saban's a better coach than Belichick. I disagree with that, but I understand the argument.
Right. So. But I mean, even still, it's like they're saying do your job because at that point in the game with 3 minutes left, we're not drawing up a new play. There's nothing else we're going to add to this playbook that's going to make a difference right now. I need you to do your job on this play that we've practiced. That's what Hafley's setting up right now. That's what the offseason was about. That's what this time coming up is going to be about. And by week 1, man, we're going to have weekly plans, and you just better be ready to play. Because there's not a bunch of teaching, in game moving forward once you hit season time.
And one of the things that Hafley said was, we're going to play fast, right?
Right.
And people immediately think we're going to be really aggressive. That's not what the Jets did. They will blitz, don't get me wrong. But their whole idea is kind of the same approach as San Francisco. Let's get pressure with 4 guys so we can have 7 guys in coverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maximize everything. So how do you do that? How do you get pressure with 4 guys? You got to have a deep room of pass rushers, both interior and on the outside. And that's what they've put together. Matter of fact, I grabbed a screen grab here.
And that's kind of what we've been talking about, Clayton, or at least I've said it. Those hockey lines, dude, if we can have 2 sets of 4 guys that can rotate, we can like in hockey, as the game gets closer to the end, we'll move guys around. That's our alpha line or whatever. That is something that I think Hafley is going to dive into this year big time.
Definitely. And when you look at the Jets pass rushers up front, Quinnen Williams, Carl Lawson, John Franklin Myers, Will McDonald. You guys remember he was a high draft pick. Jermaine Johnson, another high draft pick. Michael Clemens, Solomon Thomas, guy they went out and got from San Francisco, right? They brung him over when Salah came over. He ended up bringing Solomon Thomas with him.
Right.
And Ross Huff. So they got a very deep pass rushing core. And we're going to get into the article here. Let's just go ahead and dive right in, Emilio, if that's cool with you. I'm going to kill my cam because I am going to be reading a lot. I'm going to go full screen so maybe you guys can see it a little bit better. Emilio, you just cut me off mid-sentence if you got anything you want to add. It's a little bit of a lengthy article, but I'm telling you, there's some really good stuff in here. Keep in mind, this article was written by Oliver Connolly, August 14th, 2023. So this was before last season, okay? And understand the Jets defense still had an excellent year last year, so it wasn't like that defense dropped off, okay? So
Right.
Here's what the article says. All the preseason focus for the Jets is on Aaron Rodgers and refashioned offense led by the Astur stylings of Nathaniel Hackett. That's the way these things go. Rodgers was the biggest acquisition of the offseason, a beleaguered, famous franchise, a game-changing trade, a veteran star quarterback who's supposed to help put a young, talented roster over the hump. Got it. There's pressure on the Jets for the first time in a long time. There's pressure on Rodgers, a chance to show it was all those silly folks in Green Bay's fault for the past failings, not his. Rodgers has been on his best behavior so far. Boy, things have changed and will continue to do so until the bullets start flying. He's in legacy burnishing mode. There's pressure on Hackett back in the Green Bay days, blah, blah. I'm going to get through this because I want to get to Robert Saleh here. There's pressure most of all on Robert Saleh. The success or failure of the Jets title bid will not live with Rodgers, no matter the national fanfare, but with the team's head coach. Saleh has proven his credentials as a defensive architect. But what about as a program builder? What about running a building? And not just any old building, a championship building. What about running a championship building with a – why do they use these words?
These are some brutal ones.
You're trying too hard, my man. You're trying way too hard.
Cantankerous?
Cantankerous 40-year-old at quarterback in an organization that the loserdom coursing through every inch of its veins. So far, so good. Saleh's rah-rah style has buy-in from all the key players. He's been ruthless, too. He asked his buddy Mike LaFleur, Matt's brother, to help clear the way for Hackett and Rodgers to rekindle their partnership. It was the first decision of many over the next 6 months, blah, 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 blah. Let's get on. All right. And what about his defense? Saleh has to devise 6 game plans against the NFL's division of death, the Bills, Dolphins, and Patriots. And what do they mean by 6 game plans? You're going to play each of those 3 teams twice. So you got to come up with 6 different game plans, okay? He'll face Justin Herbert and Kellen Moore, Patrick Mahomes, blah, blah, blah. Let's go on. That's for the last season's schedule. Let's see. There aren't many. Okay, here we go. Here we're getting into the scheme. There aren't many bells and whistles to Saleh's scheme. His excellence as a coach is less about wonky play designs and more about his week-to-week game planning. He sticks to what his side does best. While exposing holes in the opposing offense's makeup, he finds weaknesses and attacks them. And attacks them, and attacks them some more. Once he's hit on what works, he doesn't overthink things. He doubles down. There's no let up. He's not showing off his schematic acumen down in and down out. He's running what works to the point of exhaustion. That's smart coaching. So just keeping things extremely simple is what solid does, right?
It seems that's like week 1 of high school right there. We know 5 plays, and we're just going to hammer them as much as we possibly can.
Yep. Now, keep in mind, go back to last year, and again, I know there are some that are going, Clayton, just give it up. Joe Barry's gone. I'm glad Joe Barry's gone. I think Jeff Hafley has a better chance of turning this defense around. But I just want to go back to last year on occasion and okay, what went wrong? What happened? Why did it happen? You remember Matt LaFleur saying it. You heard Mike Wall say it when he came on the pod. He said, this is entry-level stuff. This is entry-level stuff, and our guys aren't executing. Now, were they not playing inspired? I don't know. Are they I hate to say it this way, but are they not intelligent enough to pick it up? And it's just all a bunch of world-class athletes that we talked about. Not all, but most. It could be some of that. Who knows, right? Because the reality is, if you take a world-class athlete as a draft pick, what's the downside? If that won you championships, well, heck, let's just do that. Just draft by RAS. The problem is there's a mental aspect to the game as well. It says Salo wants to play with 4 down linemen, rarely blitz, and to sink back into only a handful of coverages. Now, think about all the articles we've read, Emilio, where people have said, man, they're going to bring a complexity of blitzes and fronts up front. You remember us talking about that when they hired Jeff? And I was reading these articles going, what in the hell are these people looking at? Like, what makes them think that he's just going to get all complex and show, an 8-man blitz and then end up dropping everyone in the – it's like, that's not what he's shown. It isn't. He said he's betting on players, not plays. How many times have you heard us say that? Right. And again, I didn't coin that phrase. That's a Bill Belichick-ism. It's, players win them, coaches lose them. Another thing, Pat Kerwin from Take Your Eye Off the Ball, the author of that book, former GM, front office executive. What did he always say? When the game's on the line, think player, not play. Right. At the end of the day, players win games. Some coaches get in their head, well, it doesn't matter what roster I've got. I can scheme us to victory, and that's just not the case.
Exactly.
So he's betting on players, not plays. He relies on a core group of concepts dressed up in a couple of different ways and trusts players to react intuitively in coverage. Having Sauce Gardner on the back end is a cheat code for such a system. But, well, he does have Sauce Gardner. It's hard to overstate the value of Gardner. It's harder still – or to exaggerate the value of Gardner within Saleh's specific system. The Jets are dropping 7 into coverage over and over again. Now, once again, pause. How many times we hear people say, we're finally going to get after the quarterback and blitz and throw exotic blitzes and all these things. You remember them talking about that, Emilio? Yeah,
and that's all they were saying. Is they couldn't pinpoint what they were going to do. They just thought that we were going to be this NASCAR set. Everyone's, I'm fine throwing in one of those, a stand-up set or whatever. But no, if you can get pressure with 4, what do Bill and Saban always say? If you can get pressure with 4, coverage is easy, right? We have 2/3 of the team back there in coverage. And if you can get pressure with 4 dudes up front and still hold your lanes, that's ideal. Because I'm looking here at their numbers on PFF. Their defense was 90 overall, right, in total. Their run defense, which we've had problems with forever. Everybody, dislikes our run defense. We're bad at it. Their run defense was a 66-8. I mean, that's not anything to write home to. It's not terrible, but we'll take that. Tackling at a 60.6. Their pass rush, 81.8. That's huge, right? I know we're about to go dive into them right here, the players that make that up. And then leading into that, their coverage was a 94.4. Okay. So how do you get yourself a 94.4, the best coverage in the league? How do you do that? Well, 7 people in the back helps, I would say. I mean, even if it is only cover 3, cover 2, cover 1 robber, whatever. The game's been around for 100 years. Yes, it's evolved, but we're not building brand new plays and things off of it now. We're just kind of revamping it to make it work for the year and the team.
Definitely. Ron Samuel in the chat said, Hafley flat out said he will simplify so they can play fast, not make the defense more complex. That's exactly what I heard, Ron. And there were article after article written how they were going to just be more aggressive and blitz more. And there's going to be more press man coverage. I'm going, where are y'all getting this from? Unless Hafley just pulled the wool over our eyes and y'all got an exclusive interview with him. And he said, hey, guys, hey, listen, here's what I'm actually going to do. Mm-hmm. And we know that didn't happen. But M. Smitty said the goal should be to get home with the front four and not have to blitz as often. That's exactly what this article is talking about. That's exactly what they do. If you go back and listen to the Play Callers podcast, they talked about why they went to the Fangio scheme. Because when you play with a too high shell, it reduces the amount of explosives through the passing game. Now, the problem is what many people didn't catch last year is we ran, like I said earlier on the top of this pod here.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. You know, my son started collecting football cards. I had no idea what the heck I was doing, so I went out and bought him one of those binders you put all the cards in and all that kind of stuff. Turns out, card collecting has come a long way since when I was a kid, and that's what people did. Now, there is a new way to buy, sell, and trade cards. It's called Arena Club. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the all-in-one trading card platform that you have to sign up for. Over at arenaclub.com/packdaddy. We actually did a whole YouTube video about this. I would encourage you to check it out. It is a fantastic website. You can, as I said, you can buy, trade, sell, but also you can display all of your cards right there on the platform. It gives you all of the grading. They'll even grade your cards. Their grading combines AI as well as human grading to get the most accurate grading of all your cards. And right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase by going to arenaclub.com/packdaddy. That's arenaclub.com/packdaddy for 10% off your first purchase. You ever hear of test driving a phone network? Well, US Cellular is letting you test drive their nationwide 5G for free. Try out US Cellular wherever you have spotty service. Your commute to work, that one spot in your house where your service dips. It's as easy as doing a little beep boop pop boop pop with your phone. That's the buttons. That's the noise they make. Anyways, test drive US Cellular's nationwide 5G coverage for free for 30 days. Just download the Try Us app. US Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com/tryus.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
We ran single high coverage, fifth most in the league, meaning we weren't playing too high shell. We were disguising it pre-snap, and he got absolutely roasted for it. You remember Joe Barry getting roasted for it. Why are we playing so far off the ball? Yep. Why is that safety not? Now, we debunked it a lot during the season going, look, guys, they got 8 guys in the box. What the hell do you want this man to do? And we're missing tackles. We're missing tackles in the backfield. Just want to point that out. And let me hit this real quick because I really appreciate this comment. Richard King says, good morning, fellas. Appreciate the daily shows. Lots of different topics and different ways to look at things. Being a Packer fan for over 50 years, appreciate what we have now. It can be worse. Amen to that, Richard. And thank you so much for watching the show, buddy. We really, really appreciate it. And, man, being a fan for 50 years, thank you for carrying that flag, brother.
Yeah,
man.
That's the truth.
So, again, the Jets are dropping 7 into coverage over and over again. Gardner allows – go ahead, buddy. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, so just one other thing. I mean, even though looking at Dallas, they ran a lot of dime and nickel last year, right?
Correct. Yep.
More than any other team. Their pass rush was a 90.9 and a coverage grade of 81.8. Even that, but they got 2 dogs. You know, we got Parsons and Lawrence down there. Obviously, they're 2 top 10, D-line in the league. Mm-hmm. It's the same idea. If we can get pressure with those 4, I'm taking an 80 in coverage. We can play more dime. You know, we can bring a big nickel in. That opens up a lot more moving forward if you can lock up that front four and be done with it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So it goes on to say Gardner allows Saleh to lock off one part of the field. Now, I want to hit this real quick. So again, Gardner allows Saleh to lock off one part of the field. Now, we got a comment in here. And listen, I'm not, Jimmy, don't take this the wrong way, brother. I'm not trying to dog you here, okay? This is the normal opinion of Packer fans. Jimmy Haffa says, I just hope they allow Jair to follow ones. Now, look at what I've got highlighted on the screen. You can't lock off one part of the field and follow the one. That's not what they're having Gardner for the most part. There may be occasions they'll lock onto one. For the most part, he is staying on one side of the field because there's this huge misconception amongst fans that would just let Jair follow the number one. That's not how NFL defenses operate. If you call a straight man coverage play, yes, you can do that. The problem is every single defense in the league, every single defense plays more zone than man. Not just the Packers, not just Saleh, not just every defense plays more zone than man. Now, some will play more man coverage than others. And when you play man coverage, you can say, okay, when it's a man coverage call, follow your guy. Now, think of all the moving parts that come into play now. If you're strictly a man coverage team, that would work great. But when you're trying to mix and match different coverages in, which every defense does, even Bill Belichick, who is the inventor of the bullseye defense, which is essentially put your number one corner on their number two receiver and then take your number two corner along with a safety bracket or an extra DB and double the number two or double the number. So you're double covering the number one with your 2 and 3, and you're putting your best corner on their number 2. That's what they call bullseye, right? He's the closest thing we have to what we're talking about here with having Jair follow the ones. When you do that, you have to be in man coverage. Now, let's say you have him doing that, right? And you're playing zone, let's say it's 55% of the time. I think it's a little bit higher than that. Let's say you're playing zone 55% of the time. And now you switch up to man. Guess what has to happen? When they use cheat motion, and they use pre-snap, sugar with their alignment, and Jair's following that guy around. Every time he moves on the field, another defender has to adjust and change who he's covering. Mm-hmm. It's constant. And here's the thing, too. There may be something baked into the game plan that, look, if Jair is playing lockdown on that number one receiver and that guy that is the number one receiver is in the boundary X, are you going to cheat the safety to that side or are you going to play the true element of that defensive call? There's a lot of different things that come into play there. It's not just as simple as, listen, I play Madden. You know what I do, Emilio? Oh. I put best overall on best overall. They got an adjustment for that, right? Yep. And what happens? Jair follows the best wide receiver all around the field. That is Madden. That is not real life.
That's no problem, right? Because his energy, his stamina is 99, right? We don't have to worry about him running out of gas, running back and forth. We saw it on a couple of games ago. There was a motion came across. I think it was either an orbit or a jet motion across. Ja just threw his hand up like, "Hey, take him." Then
and that's not how it works.
One more communication mistake, one more man open, and it was on that reverse, and then Ja had to run him all the way down, 30 yards down the field after
and then he shoved him into the end zone.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm glad you said that, Amelia. It's a perfect example of what happens, and that's why I blame Ja more than our coaches because, like Ja, you've been saying you wanted this, you get it. And then you try to pass him off to someone on the other side. Like just because in the moment you go, you know what? I don't want to cover him on this play. You guys take him. And the other guy, and people were going, well, maybe it's the other guy's fault. The other guys are looking at him going, what the hell are you doing? They're throwing their hands up. Like, what are you? We don't have the hat count over here. So those things, they truly do matter. They truly matter. Mm-hmm. So again, Gardner allows, and again, thank you so much for the comment there, Jimmy Half. I just wanted to kind of point that out that right here, Gardner allows Saleh to lock off one part of the field because the majority of the time they're playing zone defense, just like every other defense in the league. Pair that without the need to blitz, and suddenly you're cheating 2 extra players into coverage. Think about that. It's up front where things take flight. The Jets will deploy a cavalcade, look at that word, Emilio, of snarling, savvy pass rushers who play the maniacal. Is that right? How would you say that? Maniacal?
Yeah, I think maniacal.
Maniacal effort. My man, he is
Just
trying.
clip that sentence and we'll use that as a sound drop moving forward.
All right, so it says, I mean, look at this thing. Quinnen Williams, Carl Lawson, John Franklin Myers, Will McDonald IV. Let's see here. You've got Jermaine Johnson, Michael Clemens, Solomon Thomas, Bryce Huff. Let's just focus on Quinnen Williams. Okay, focus on Quinnen Williams for just a second. He's a guy who can play. Here's the guy. He can play nose. He can play one. He can play three tech. Now we hit timeout here. Pause. Remember Michael Lombardi saying everybody thinks they've got a three tech and very few teams do.
Yes.
What does he mean by that? The three tech is what makes a defense go. The three tech is, and again, when we're talking technique, let me pull up this graphic here because we may have some new viewers, new listeners. When we're talking technique, the three tech, you see the numbers. First of all, focus on the tackle, guard, center, guard, tackle, and the Y, which is the tight end. Where's the three tech? The three tech will line up in between the guard and the tackle. Okay. So when you play, if I remember correctly, Robert Saleh played a whole bunch of over. That's kind of his base defense, 4-3 over when they come out in a 21 set or in a 12 set. So what's a 4-3 over? A 4-3 over is when you've got a D tackle playing on the strong side, on the Y side in the three tech. So notice the three tech in between the guard and the tackle on the right. That will be your indicator. If the defensive tackle on the strong side is in a three tech and on the weak side is in a one tech, that's what you call a 4-3 over. They're playing over the tight end because you're going to have a wide 9 or a 7 on the outside shoulder of the Y. Okay, so you're cheating over the strong side of the formation is essentially what it means. Okay, so just want to kind of point that out. So when you're talking about three tech, now what's the biggest difference between what the Jets are doing and what other teams maybe aren't doing? I'm going to tell you what it is. Two players. And they're not the only important players, but these two players right here, Sauce Gardner, but more importantly, Quinnen Williams. Kenny Clark is our Quinnen Williams. Now, I showed you the cap hit, and I think I've already deleted those screen grabs, and I did. Kenny Clark has the largest cap hit amongst all defensive tackles. I want to say, if I remember correctly, Quinnen Williams was somewhere around 9th or 10th. Okay. Guess what Quinnen Williams' PFF grade is, Emilio?
I don't know. I'm looking at his pass rush grade right now at an 84.5.
90.6. Now, what was Kenny Clark's biggest weakness? Think about this. Because this defense begins and ends with stopping the run, just like most defenses, in most cases, unless you're playing a pass-happy team. His run defensive grade was a 90.4. Now, let's go to Kenny Clark. Broken/missed tackle percentage, 141st in the league amongst defensive tackles at 10.2%. So you want to know what the problem is with the front. I hate to say it. I hate to keep harping on it. They've got Quinnen Williams. We've got Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark's eating up $27 million in cap hit. Quinnen Williams is eating up significantly less than that. I think he's around $20 million, so about $7 million less. So that's the biggest thing that jumps off the board to me. Now, I'm not saying we should scrap Kenny Clark. I'm saying if we're going to re-sign him to another extension, although he will be 30 years old, we cannot continue to make him the highest paid defensive tackle. We just can't. He is a world-class human being. That dude is a leader. They love him in the locker room. Every defensive lineman talks about, even the offensive linemen talk about the leader that he is, right? You cannot, I'm not downplaying that at all. I'm just simply saying when it comes to production on the field, he is not Quinnen Williams. And what we should be looking for, just like a quarterback, because this is tier 1 of importance on defense, we should be looking for the next great three tech. That's what we should be looking for. And until we find it, we keep looking. And it may be Devontae Wyatt, but right now, Devontae Wyatt's kind of playing the same way that Kenny was. High pressure rate, bad missed tackle, broken tackle percentage, and bad run defense grade. Go ahead, Emilio.
I was picking through their pass rush stats. So Quinnen Williams had 70. So he had 465 pass rushes. The dude had 70 total tackles. That's big because it's at the line of scrimmage, right? The dude's not a safety. He's not 10 yards back. Anywhere happening from -3 to +3 yards. I love that he has 70 tackles. That's incredible. 6 sacks, 11 hits, 53 hurries with a win percentage of a 19.5%. That's unbelievable.
And I know those guys don't grow on trees, and that's what Lombardi was talking about when he said Seattle took Byron Murphy this year.
Right.
And he said they took Byron Murphy. He said, I think he might have been the steal of the draft. Byron Murphy was hands down the best defensive tackle on paper in this year's draft. He said, you got a true three tech right there. They went out and got him a 3-tech in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did. Now, maybe we were thinking Devontae Wyatt could be him. To me personally, he hasn't lived up to that yet. Pass rush wise, he looks like he's going to be an animal, but he is not playing the run like Quinnen Williams, right? And then maybe he will this year. Maybe Jeff Hafley's new assistants with Ogabasi and some of these guys can come in and they can get things straightened out. I hope they can, because Devontae Wyatt has all the athletic ability in the world. It's just he doesn't play under control. There was many times on tape we went, look at Wyatt right here. And he just like a Tasmanian devil fires out of the hole, goes into the other guy's gap, and knocks our defensive lineman down. It's like, what are you doing, bro?
Right. And for them to be able to lean on each other, right? Quinnen Williams is able to do that because Bryce Huff above him had, just 330 snaps with another 67 tackles, 10 sacks, 12 hits, 45 hurries, and a win percentage of 22.9%. Our problem previously was, hey, our edges are coming up, setting, we're setting the edge. We're not letting anything around us. We're not, maybe rushing as strong. We're kind of just bending the shoulder. That's going to be different now when we have all four. Your job is to get to the quarterback up front. I don't need you to set an edge anymore. My backers are going to go get the edge. My big nickel is going to cover the edge. So I think that's also going to be huge, letting them, just kind of take their ears back, ready to go. But I have somebody next to me that's also working as hard as I am inside.
Definitely. So the article goes on to say, yeesh, the Jets have Al Woods and Quentin Jefferson to help snuff out gaps on running downs and then roll 8 deep with pass rushers of every conceivable style. Outside swoopers, out to in crunchers, inside maulers, two-way threats. It's a conveyor belt of get-off pass rushers. Hand any coach a couple of these guys and they'd be giddy. Saleh has always run with NASCAR substitutions, rolling pass rushers on and off the field to make sure everyone is a full go in every situation. But even his most thorough Niners groups didn't roll quite this deep. Forget aphorisms. How do you say that, Emilio? Aphorisms? That's just crazy. I don't understand people, man. On the mirror or Red Bull or getting sunlight on your balls. Whoa. A real actual practice that some buffoons, some of my acquaintances included, are embracing to give a spike of energy. That's a real what? It should only take a glance at his pass rush depth chart to give Saleh a bolt of electricity in the morning. Stopping the run from an even front with 4 strung out linemen is no mean feat. It takes the collective and outstanding individual players who can make atypical plays at a typical rate. The Jets stick to their base no matter how compressed the offensive formation. 2 tight ends bunched on the line of scrimmage, no problem. Bringing in extra linemen to attack with a jumbo package, whatever. A condensed set with everyone packed around the box. We run what we run. Okay, so when you look here, this is a perfect example. And it's exactly what we just talked about. Notice the 3-tech. The 3-tech, first of all, find the strong side of the formation. From our perspective, looking at this image, if those of you on the pod, the left side of the formation from the defense's perspective is the strong side of the formation. So from the offenses, it's a strong right look. We've got the 3-tech is on the strong side of the formation. The other defensive tackle is in a shade/nose, which is in the 1-tech, essentially very close to the 1-tech. And then both other guys are at a wide 9. What would we call that? We call that an over front is what we would call that look right there. Now, if we got into the number system, and again, I just want to hit on this stuff as we go because it is important. I think I still got the screen grab. Yeah, here we go. So we know that's an over front right there. Okay. So if we're showing an over front triggers the 50s call. Okay. And then when you go to the second number of the defensive call here, as far as the defensive front call that the offenses use to identify what kind of front they're in, therefore will set up their blocking scheme, their protection package. 5 means Sam on the ball, 7 with the wheel on the ball, 9 is all backers off the ball, and 3 is backers walked up on both edges. So you see all backers are off the ball. It's an over front. This would be called a 59 front. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So there you go. That's how that lines up. So here they're showing a 59 front, 4-3 over, or a 59 front is what they're showing. Now look at the safeties. Notice how the safeties aren't completely in the box.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Number 3 is kind of at like a robber depth as opposed to a hole depth. The backers are at hole depth there. It's a style that lends itself to closing down wide zone, then boot-oriented offenses. Remember what the Play Callers podcast talked about. The number one explosive play on the run on the ground in the NFL is wide zone runs.
Mm-hmm.
The number one passing play or what have you, explosive plays in the passing game, is typically run off of boot action. But nonetheless, when you show a too high shell, like the Jets are showing right here, that deters quarterback from taking quick hitters down the seam. So you're limiting the explosive plays in the passing game by showing a too high shell. You're limiting the wide zone running plays by showing a wide 9 look. If you go back to the Play College podcast, you heard Mike McDaniel, who obviously is the head coach for the Miami Dolphins, drop a couple F-bombs going. Green Bay runs those effing wide edges. That's because you're taking away the wide zone run. You're forcing them back inside.
But I mean, looking at this picture, we got 10 of the defensemen right now. I think we got probably a wide receiver looking at the defense over here on the right side off screen. But like you said, I think that Sauce on the left side there, he's probably locking down the wide side of the field right now on the strong side. But this is just going to be his side. It's not like he's picking back and forth all the time. But they're able to stop that with the light box, and the safeties aren't in. Whitehead's not all the way down there. We have 4 on the line. The offense is in a strong right eye formation. If that doesn't scream we're about to run the ball too, that's exactly it. So
that'd be a 21 strong right eye.
Yeah,
we'd say 21 eye. Strong right, and of course we can't see the splits of the receivers. There could be some nasty element there, but like they said, Saleh doesn't care how condensed the sets are. They run what they run, right? All right, so the next thing it says is last year the Jets they conceded just 4.7 yards per carry from lighter boxes. In 6-man boxes in their classic 4-2-5 look, which is what they run the majority of, that's their nickel set, which is basically the same thing we ran last year. Ours is a nickel 2-4-5, theirs is a nickel 4-2-5. Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary magically just wharf into defensive ends now, which is why Matt LaFleur told the media last year, you guys are really exposing yourself, thinking we're only playing with 2 defensive linemen. They ranked comfortably above a bunch of groups playing out of a 5-1 looks or 5-2 looks who had an extra hat in the run fit early. So I'm going to read that one more time. In 6-man boxes, in their classic 4-2-5 look, they ranked comfortably above a bunch of groups playing out of a 5-1 or 5-2 look. Remember our 34 jam? Our 34 jam is basically 5 defensive linemen. So they're talking about us. We allocated more resources to stopping the run up front and got a lesser quality of a defense against the run than Saleh did with only a 4-man front. Now, how many times have you heard drunken podcasters screaming on live streams, this light-ass box? It's like, but you go watch the Jets, they wouldn't be screaming that. They'd be going, okay, so what's the difference? It's the players. It's the Quinnen Williams grading out as a 90 PFF, right? As opposed to our Kenny Clark at 70. That's the difference. The difference is their linebackers in the middle with C.J. Mosley and Quinnen Williams' brother. Is it Quincy Williams. Quincy Williams with much higher PFF. I know PFF doesn't matter. It's just absolute garbage. It's like a hell of a coincidence. I'll just say that. It goes on to say, being able to keep your head above water versus a run in those even looks has an obvious knock-on effect. You're able to keep an extra guy back in coverage and get to all the funky, too deep, then rotate coverages. Looks that help slow play action shots. Exactly what we talked about, limiting the explosive plays in the passing game by showing that too high shell look. Now, again, the drunken podcasters will scream and rant that we need an extra guy in the box, get out of this shell look. Being able to, which we did last year, and how did that work? 5th most in the league. We did that. How did that work? Being able to keep your head above water versus the run. Okay, we just hit on that. That's the secret sauce. Pun kind of intended. Great joke. That all defenses are looking for in the Fangio era. How are you able to keep 2 safeties deep at the snap so they can then rotate, put different contours in the defensive shell, and throw off the most potent, efficient way of moving the ball down the field in chunks, which is play action? All right. Now, pause, timeout. Go back to the Pittsburgh game. Remember everybody throwing a fit because we were playing shell coverage and they were running the ball down our throat? And what did Matt LaFleur snap back at the media with? Pittsburgh played a two high shell all game long, and they got to their run fits no problem. Why is that?
Just fine?
You know how? Think about the safety breakdown we did yesterday. Minkah Fitzpatrick. Think player, not play. When the game's on the line, think player, not play. Players win them, coaches lose them, right? All those things, those cliches we talk about. What was Minkah Fitzpatrick's rating compared to Darnell Savage? I'm not even going to take the time to look it up. But that's the difference. So what do? We go out and get Xavier McKinney. That's why I'm saying Joe Barry's somewhere slapping the table like that Denzel Washington gif, going, what the hell? Y'all fire me, then you go get one of the best safeties in the league?
Bro, really?
Exactly. So right here, the vanilla theory, this is kind of cool. I'm going to zoom in real quick. Hopefully I don't lose the whole article here. It says the vanilla theory. A defensive theory based on utilizing post-snap rotation from split safety structures in order to consistently give the offense a similar pre-snap presentation. In theory, the, quote, sameness of the presentation makes the offense and the quarterback do the majority of their identification and confirmation during the snap. Now, you guys have heard me say the four most important aspects of a quarterback at the NFL level. It's not throwing power. I don't even have it on the list. It's accuracy. It's pre-snap adjustment or pre-snap reads, post-snap reads, and then quick release, right? That post-snap read is what we're talking about. When you come out in a pre-snap read, if you're always showing a too high shell, guess what? The quarterback has not gathered a single bit of information. They're going to come out and go, same look. All right, nothing to look at pre-snap. You can look at the front, obviously. Are they in an over? Are they in an under? Are they showing kind of an odd set? Are they going overload on one side, which Robert Saleh does from time to time? Hopefully we'll have time to get into it. But they come out and they go, okay, there's no pre-snap information that you can gather there. Now, think of the Dallas playoff game between the Packers and the Cowboys. Remember the skinny post touchdown over Stephon Gilmore to Dontavian Wicks. What happened on that play? He did a hard count, got them to tip their hand because they weren't showing too high shell coverage. So when you don't show too high shell coverage, you're leaking information to the offense. Therefore, Jordan came up. He's seen the safety stacked on the left side. He got them to tip their hand with the blitz. Check. Why stay safe? Give me an extra blocker. Now we're covered on our 6-man protection with their 6-man blitz. And he audibled, I'm sure, and told Dontavian Wicks, hey, give me a skinny here. There's no way. Just give him a little shake at the bottom of the stem, and we will burn a former defensive player of the year in Stephon Gilmore. Why? Because we know pre-snap there's no safety help over the top. Right. That's the positive effect of playing a too high shell. Barry wanted to do that. Barry did that 2 years ago, and our defense got better, and that's when Devondre Campbell had his best year at the mock position, right? Last year, what happened? It all falls apart. What did we do? We played single high, fifth most in the league. Go ahead, Emilio. What were you going to say, Bob?
No, that's it. And then I was just looking at this. This is a great image right here. Just kind of seeing this is just the zones for the safeties, right? And this is when we're talking about there's so many different zones. You pulled up the plays and everything. I mean, you go from Tampa 2 to cloud to sky. There's Robert Hull. We've talked about all these things, but being able to break it down and see it all in one picture. I mean, you see how it is a vanilla theory, but it's also still decently kind of complex. You know, we gotta be paying attention. That's why I love that we got X back there, who's intelligent, ready to roll. You know, can carry out the plays, can make calls, all of that, and can kind of read the quarterback as well. That's what a safety is basically the reader of the defense, kind of like a quarterback is. He's going to walk up, look, and see what are we in position wise. What could this be on the tape? Are they, 3rd and 6? Do they like to run? Do they like to do a play action? All that stuff kind of comes into play.
Definitely. And what it says down here in the bottom left, let me zoom back in down here. Okay. It says offenses use the safeties to identify coverages, convert routes, and pick a primary read in PSL concepts. Post-snap rotation complicates those processes. So when you show the same too high look, it complicates their ability to read that. Go back and listen to Greg Cosell and Doug Ferrara interview Bo Nix. And you guys heard me say Bo Nix was kind of my darling of the draft. Lo and behold, Sean Payton values him as an early first-round pick at the quarterback position and probably going to be his new – I'm not going to say he's going to be a Hall of Famer like Drew Brees. He may end up being a complete bust. But Sean Payton on the surface says this is going to be my Drew Brees of my new offense in Denver. What did Bo Nix say? He said, we read the boundary safety to the Sam backer. In this case, with the Sam backer will be the W on this graphic here. So if you look at the boundary safety, let's assume they're on the left hash here. If you read the boundary safety and you gather information from him pre-snap, and then you work your way to the Sam, you can get a lot of the answers to the test, right, to the equation. The problem is if those safeties are always showing a too high shell, which they don't do in college as much outside of the Alabama defense, what you're doing is you're not able to gather information. So that's why Bo Nix, when they would come out, they would read boundary safety to Sam backer, and that would tell them a majority of what this defense is going to do. When they're constantly in the too high shell, you're not tipping that information. But I'm with you, man. I do like how it shows the depth difference of robber and hole, which we just kind of talked about a second ago. We show what the buzz is, right, with what the cover 3 buzz, which is what Saleh runs a lot. We show what sky means here. We show what cloud means. Sky is the safety is going to work to the curl flat. Cloud is they're going to work to the hook, right? The hook flat, really. If and you're prioritizing the hook over the flat. So cloud a little bit further deep. Like you said, with Tampa, the safety's going to get a lot wider because you got the Mike dropping down the middle seam, which completes the Tampa 2 look.
Right.
It's a really cool image. It is, man. It said, make the quarterbacks and receivers do their work during the snap, exclamation point.
And think about that. I also kind of feel like that's why we've gotten away from so much under center. Because if you're under center, right, we do a reverse spin, go to do the play action. By the time you spin your head around, those safeties are nowhere near where they used to be. You know what I mean? At that point, there's 2.5 seconds elapsed. They are gone. So you need to make that decision instantly. And I think that's kind of why we've gotten away from those super long drawed out play to actions, right? Or that's why we've gotten to a lot more bootlegs, get them way outside, give them a second to read it and identify.
Definitely. Jay in the comments, and this is Jacob's fault. I blame Jacob. He's not even here. He
Right.
says, personally, I'm running pounder 40 plus times a game.
Just a tip, though.
We're talking pounder. If you look up top here, I know you can't see my cursor. We're showing the safety dropping deep in a 4 or 8. All right, yep. 4 or 8 pounder, and on the other side, 4 to 6 pounder. With the strong safety on the opposite side, 9 to 1 weak. Some people look at this and they go, well, why is the strong side of the formation? Why do they have the strong safety on the left? That's what we're talking about. Safeties have to be very, very interchangeable, very interchangeable. And with the F there, that F could be a flexed out tight end. We don't know, or it could mean flyer. We don't have that information in this regard either. So,
right.
All right, going down, it says, and we're at the 49-minute mark. We got to roll. We're probably not going to get through the entire article, but I feel like we've hit on some really good stuff here. It says Saleh's defense doesn't need to be dominant from such looks, though they were. They just have to keep their head above water in order to limit the effectiveness of play action. Again, you're playing bend but don't break. Look at this image here, and I screenshot it during the video, or I paused it during the video so you could see the safeties. Look at what they're running here. Once again, this is a strong right look. It's a strong right look, so we're playing a 4-3 over. And, again, we're playing with all the backers off the ball. Now, you see the slot corner or safety, could be a big nickel, coming up and kind of playing aggressive in the slot. We did that all year long last year. The only difference was we were rotating that safety down much more often than we were pre-snap, so especially in the second half of the season. So it says the Jets coughed up 6.3 yards per coverage snap versus play action, thanks in part to the excellence of their corners in man coverage, and thanks largely to their ability and comfortability defending the run with a 4-down front. So, again, this is probably what we're going to see is this 4-man front right here, and not loading the box like we were trying to do last year to stop the run. And I truly believe, Emilio, that the coaching staff listened to the fan base to a certain extent. Now, they're not on podcast listen, but they heard the grumblings. I guarantee you when they sat down with Murphy, it's like, we got to be more aggressive against the run. We're getting eat alive out here.
Yeah. So
they started overcompensating when they should have stuck with what they were good at doing, which was showing a too high shell, sticking to that too high shell more often.
Exactly.
And again, if you don't believe us, go back and watch the Chalk Talk segment. We'll show you over and over and over where we rotated the safety into the box because I got tired of saying the drunken podcasters wanted an 8-man box. They've got it right here. How did it work out? It didn't work out well at all. Slowing the run from 4 down front serves as the appetizer for the pass rush. Saleh is the grand marshal of the single high mugging parade, leveraging the deployment of a linebacker to make life easier for the Wolves up front to go hunt. Last season, the Jets averaged 2.2 sacks per game with a 4-man rush. That's wild. The second highest figure in the league. If they don't match or better that this season, Saleh might think about, and again, when they're talking about the previous year, they're talking about 2022. Saleh might think about walking away from this thing altogether. Last year's unit finished with a 34.1% pressure rate from a 4-man rush, well above the championship level threshold. And they did so without an overly sophisticated style. It's a group built on stunts, twists, and D-line movement and line movement. And the threat of those out to in movements, talking about the twists and the stunts, opening up room on the perimeter. The Jets' pass rush plan and coverage are in perfect sync. They're built front to back, the style of pass rush plan informing the coverage. All right, rolling out a steady trove of people destroyers helps. In Williams, Lawson, Franklin Myers, who was out of his mind last season, meaning 2022, Johnson, Clemens, McDonald, Thomas, and Huff, they have dominant one-on-one pass rushers. Now, who's our dominant one-on-one pass rushers? We're built for this.
Right.
But the problem is we put everyone on the line of scrimmage with the 34 jam trying to stop the run. Now we're going to have these stack backers playing behind a 4-man front. I'm getting excited. Yeah. This kind of feels like this is going to work. The Jets had 3 players finish in the top 26 of Brandon Thorne's true pass rusher rate. All 3 finished in the top 20 in Thorne's pressure quality ratio. Williams was 6th, Lawson 7th, Franklin Myers 20th. No other team comes close to having more than 2 crack the top 20, not even the Cowboys or Eagles. And Saleh will have 2 other pogo stick artists flying off the edge this year, second-year man Jermaine Johnson and rookie Will McDonald. Cycling out from your pressure experts to 2 first-round draft picks is flat-out unfair. McDonald has the potential to be the most impactful rookie in terms of tipping the championship odds, even as a rotational rusher. Cut me off if you got anything, Emilio. I'm going to keep rolling. We're at the 54-minute mark here. This is a front that functions on players, not plays. But Saleh lives out of overloaded fronts and single mugger sets to help create havoc. Overloads, or as they sound, the defense allocates more rushers to one side of the formation than the other. They run a topsy-turvy front, 3 down linemen, sometimes more, to one side with a solo lineman to the other. So in this look here, you'll notice, look at how they're overloaded on the left side. Right. Now, again, they're showing, if these are true running backs, they came out with a 20 look here, 2 running backs and probably 3 wide receivers, and they flex one back out, they being the Cleveland Browns. And you see the line that we always draw on Chalk Talk, right, to show the hat count. They've got 3 guys on the line of scrimmage rushing on 2 offensive linemen, essentially. So they're overloaded to one side. Now, some would say, why don't you just run a zone right look here? This is probably a 3rd and long situation where you can't run a zone right look. So, again, you're winning on the early downs with that 4-3 even front, or a 4-3 over, I should say, in the grabs we showed you. And then you're getting them into 3rd and long, 2nd long, and 3rd and long, and then you're able to overload one side. But notice, they're not firing linebacker blitzes. They're overloading one side and putting one defensive pass rusher on the right side. You're neutralizing the guard in this situation, Emilio.
Right. He's on an island. He's got to make a decision. Am I coming to help left, or am I going to help right? Because at one point it could, you could have the 2 D tackles push the guard and tackle, and then have that wide 9 D end loop all the way back around. If that guard's sleeping, I mean, that's a
long day at the office.
Yeah.
All right. So this right here is a key mention. It says Saleh likes to toggle between a best on the same side style and isolating Carl Lawson. So sometimes he'll put his best pass rushers on the same side, and other times he'll put Carl Lawson, who was his best pass rusher, on an island by himself and just let him work on that side. So think Rashawn Gary on one side by himself, and then on the other side, Kenny Clark, Devontae White, and Preston Smith.
Right.
And, of course, mix in Van Ness. Now you look at how our pass rushing room is built, Emilio. We're kind of built for this, right? Rashawn Gary can be that lone man on his own over there. And then you got this heavy rotation of Lucas Van Ness, Kingsley Enagbare, Preston Smith, Devontae Wyatt. Those guys can do the job. The only problem is they've got Quinnen Williams right there in the middle of all this mess, and we've got Kenny Clark. So that's the big thing that's sticking out to me.
And not saying that Kenny can't do it, but he needs to show it this year. Like he's the highest paid player on this team. That needs to be proven.
Yep. So what we're going to do is we're going to end there with the screen grab, and I'm going to put loaded front screen, loaded front image, and that's where we'll pick up later on. Again, I'm going to be at a funeral this evening, unfortunately, so we won't have a show tonight, but when we pick up tomorrow, we'll pick up right here where we left off, because there's a ton of stuff. We're not even halfway through the article. Look at the bar over here, Amelia. Right. We're not even halfway through the article.
That's crazy.
There's a lot of stuff going on. I feel like we've already learned a lot for sure. So we'll just end it there. Do you got anything else you want to hit on before we wrap up?
Just looking, I pulled up their defense, the Jets defense grades last year, just to, if anybody wants to go back and watch a couple games. Two that I would maybe pick out would be their last game against the Patriots. The defense was a 90.4 overall with a coverage of a 90.7, but their pass rush wasn't great. If you want to watch kind of a real well-rounded game, would be Jets versus Giants week 8. Their defense was an 87.2, run defense 73.2, tackling was a 71.3, pass rush was an 87.1, and coverage was a 90.2. So if you want to go back and just watch 50 plays, run that condensed of the week 8 game against the Giants, and just to get an idea. I mean, you don't have to pay attention, throw it in the background and say, "Oh man, that was a cool play. Rewind that." Right. You know what I mean?
It's sometimes having that stuff on in the background, like what I like to do, and I got this from Bill Belichick. He used to come in early in the facility and he would walk the treadmill and he would have game tape on. So while he was exercising, he could watch the tape. Well, I've got an exercise bike and I got it right in front of a 75-inch TV. You've seen that TV. So I'm doing this the whole time. Uh-huh. And here's the thing. Am I catching every detail on every play? No, but it's that saturation. Keep it on loop. Mm-hmm. And then it'll trigger a thought. Let it stay on loop. Pull out the phone while I'm on the bike. It's good for the core to try to balance yourself on the bike without, riding. And then go Google that specific concept. What does that mean? Learn at your own pace, man. But again, just don't fall into that fan base that's just, run the ball. Oh, why'd we run the ball? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or why ain't we playing with 8? If 8 in the box stopped the run, everyone would do it.
Right.
And here you've got a defense that's good at stopping the run, who play with a 4-man front. They're stopping the run. There's something to that.
Yeah.
So, again, just protect this right here. Protect your brain from all the noise in every fan base, not just the Packers fan base, every fan base that they just want to get drunk and rant and pretend like they know what the hell they're talking about. Study people who have been there. Don't study what I'm studying. Or don't study what I talk about. Study what these people are talking about. Study what the former GMs and the former coaches and the former players are talking about. Protect your mind, man. I'm telling you. You're the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That doesn't just mean in the physical. It also means who are you listening to? What are you putting in your head on a daily basis as a fan? That's what's going to determine what you know at the end of the season. And just don't buy into the emotional roller coaster of everything, man. I don't know. It's just I am not an intelligent person. You can hear it in my voice. But what I have learned throughout the course of my life, whether it's business or it's being a football fan, other people have done this. Just tune out the noise and listen to those people that have done it, man. It's just huge. Again,
I think of that every time I'm like, if I'm building something, I look, it's like, dude, it's someone built this before me. What am I doing here? Why can't I just figure this out? Let's get this.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't remember who my father-in-law, that's Mandy's father, God rest his soul, man. One of the most amazing men I've ever met. He's just one of my heroes. He said all the time, he said, "Bub, damn." That country voice, he said, if another man can figure it out, you can too.
Right.
What he said.
Yeah.
Right?
Dishwasher's not working. Let's crawl under that thing, see what's going on here. Why is the sink leaking? Let's go put some.
It's already messed up. You can't screw it up any further.
Right.
Tear it apart.
It's already leaking.
Right. Exactly. It's just it's funny, man. It's huge, man. The other quote too that sticks with me all the time is, if I've seen further than anyone, it's because I've sat on the shoulders of giants.
Mm-hmm.
And all that means is someone else walked through that minefield. If you can take a second and have them go, oh, no, don't step right there, bro. Step over here. I've been there. That sucks. Step right here. That's exactly what we're talking about. So just a couple quick comments. Jay says, in this single gap 4-man rush, I think we have a top 7 defensive line in the league. It's definitely possible, man. Definitely possible. And that's why before we start scrapping everybody roster-wise, let's see how they fit, right? Because we may have it built. And I love what Ron said. Seems like we've been drafting for this defensive system for 5 years. It kind of does, man. Kind of does.
Thinking about that, when we go to do the roster breakdown, I think we got to keep two lines of rotation for D line, right? We got to keep that in mind.
Yes.
8 people wise. It's
another perfect example, Mia. How many times have we hear people say, why are they taking Rashawn Gary off the field? This is stupid. Why are they rotating? We're paying him all this money. He needs to be on the field. The best defenses in the league rotate more than us.
Yeah, right.
So, again, it's a copycat league, man. And the NFL stands for not for long if you're not willing to lower your ego and copycat what someone else is having success with. And Lincoln agrees, if you heard him.
Thank you, Lincoln. I appreciate that.
All right. We're out of here, guys. Appreciate y'all. Went a little bit over. I got so much prep to do for tonight. I really appreciate y'all's patience as we kind of get through this transition. But we'll be back to it'll probably – there's a chance I could do one tomorrow morning, but it'll be a little earlier than usual. We may try to do one tomorrow morning and then do one tomorrow evening because – I got family coming in too. I'm trying to spend as much time with my sisters as I can, but we'll definitely do at least one show tomorrow, maybe 2. But no show tonight unless the guys want to get together. You guys are more than welcome. Let me know. I'll set the stream up. We got to find Jacob. Like I said, hopefully he's still a free man. We'll see what happens there though. Watch me make all these jokes and we find out he actually is, Mom.
Yeah. You actually have a missed call. Like, hey, man.
Jacob's one of those guys that he'll disappear from time to time, and when he does, he'll be back. He's like that pup, man, that dog, right? It's like he'll just wander off in the woods and go have some fun for a few days, and all of a sudden he pops back up on the front porch like, hey, Jacob's back. So anyway, we'll see you guys tomorrow at the latest. And like I said, the guys might do a show tonight. We'll see. But for those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world and go Pack Go.